control hurting or helping the NBA?
I think it's helping. I think it's helping. Let's start here with an objective fact. What's the king of all sports in our country?
Football.
Football, right? And it's not really close. Football last year generated $15 billion. NBA, 2017 through 2018, generated $8 billion. Half, you basically half of me, and that's annual, okay? Let's talk about what's happening, though, in perception. People think this is a real fight. People think this is a battle between the NFL and the NBA. You know why that's happening? Because of perception, because of social media, because they're kicking up dust. They really don't want to fight the NFL, but they're kicking up enough dust where people are getting lost in it and starting to say, NBA, NFL, comparable, toe-to-toe. It's an economic disparity, but there's also a disparity in terms of perception. These players, social media engagement, social media interactions, all of that noise is creating a conversation for the NBA to close that gap. Even though in reality, there's not really that close of a situation between the NBA and the NFL. Right. So this is smart for them to continue to make noise, continue to kick up dust, social interaction, to make everyone think this is a close race when it really isn't.
Mm-hmm. The player movement part of it is, back in the day, that's what we fought for in the union. I mean, we fought for BRI, basketball revenues, okay, to be distributed evenly among players, okay? Not evenly, but you get the fair cut. But also having players have the ability to move with a little bit of freedom. Because back in the day, you know, we didn't have really a choice once a team chose to do something with you, whether you were under contract or not. They made moves and players were just regulated to that. So I am happy to see that guys now have a choice and an opportunity in certain situations where they may not be happy to be able to move. I know that owners don't like it as much, but at the same time, look at what it's created in regards to, I think, maybe some parity now, but also some intrigue. Guys now and teams now have what they're looking for, especially here in L.A. I mean, you can't not be happy with what you see right now in L.A. and Brooklyn. And I think to your point, too, a lot of other teams have figured out we may not get that top player, but let's see that second-tier player get here and build out when we're having a superstar a la, let's say, like Utah.
Well, me personally, with the football side of it, I don't think the athletes even think it's even close. But being that contracts are guaranteed and football is not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's night and day to us.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Living that lie, but go ahead. I'm going to get
But it's the truth, though. It's the truth.
But go ahead.
No, he's player perception. Everyone is like, yo, I want to be a basketball player. But
you can't
the reality is,
you can't tell
NFL's
me
king.
that football players are not saying, man, a football player haven't said, bruh, I wish I was playing basketball because their contract's guaranteed.
All day, every day.
Every football player's probably said that.
Hell yeah.
And there's 400 jobs in the NBA and, you know, nearly 2,000 in the NFL. But go ahead.
True. But I would rather be guaranteed than non-guaranteed. Now, let me say this. It feels good. I love the fact that players get controlling all this stuff. Because they don't mind trading you at 2, 3 in the morning while you sleep to another team way in Africa somewhere. They'll send you anywhere. So they'll trade you in the middle of the night, but you mad that I want to go where I want to go? What the problem is, players know their worth. And the teams and these agents can't tell players what they're worth no more. The players know it for themselves. So they're picking where they want to go and teaming up on their own. They're doing their own negotiations now. And that's just the biggest difference. And it's all a control thing. It's all a control thing. We lose the control of the players. Let's figure out how we can get some of it back.
And look,
man, that was hot.
Again, if you own a business, eventually you want the right to run it. And
you have that right.
No, I understand that. And so the employees don't get to run amok because a lot of times the employees are doing just individual things to satisfy themselves that don't serve the entire business. And so I believe there are some people. It's like, okay, it's worked out this summer. We got some dynamic duos. There's a lot of interesting storylines. But over the long haul, players just going wherever they want, and I like this city, I'm from this city. But I don't think it's a long-term business strategy that works. And if I'm ownership, I'm concerned. Because, again, you have very young people, very young, and I'm happy for them. I'm glad they get the money or whatever. But there should be some kind of obligation that goes along with, hey, I signed a contract, someone just made me filthy rich, But the players, they don't have to live up to the contracts in the NBA. The NBA has to live up to their end.
Right.
If you sign that deal, you got to pay.
Not fully, because look, you get a contract.
I agree.
No. The contract says, look, we'll pay you X, but it also says where we'll pay you X. If I sign a contract with you to play for the Clippers, it says Los Angeles Clippers, and you're going to give me that amount of money. But I also know that you can trade me away, and I'm talking about myself and Blake Griffin. And Blake signed on to be a Clipper, and you going to give me that money. And then he looks up, 3 o'clock in the morning, he's in Detroit. Hold on, owner. What happened to your side of the contract? It wasn't just pay me. It was also play me where I want to be played. And that's a big difference. So it's not two-way.
Well, I think when I sign a contract with a company, I don't think it guarantees me location. I don't think it guarantees me the money. That's what the contract is for. It does not.
If the company only has one location, Los Angeles Clippers, they ain't got a Detroit office.
Right.
This ain't Fox. You know?
Again, he's playing in the league of the NBA where there is some sort of revenue sharing. He's playing in the NBA. Getting shipped off to Detroit. I used to live outside there. It ain't L.A., but it's not Siberia.
Right. But it ain't L.A.
At $100 and however million they gave him, I'm just saying we love to demonize NFL owners. Oh my God, no guaranteed contracts, and I just can't believe they do this. Blah blah blah. The players, if given the opportunity, we're seeing it right now in the NFL. If given the opportunities to walk and back out of a contract because it meets their needs, they will do exactly that. I'm not sure this is a great long-term strategy. It's worked right now. I don't see it work, particularly the more and more money the guys get. Again, that kind of money at that age is a burden. It's a gift, but it's also a burden that they are not prepared for.
What's the solution, though? I mean, because for so long, players in general have been at the whim of what owners want. And I've been there. Owners told me, I remember in Philadelphia, Larry Brown, they tell me, listen, I want to get you to a playoff team. I'm like, all right, cool. That's cool with me. San Antonio's interested. We're talking to Golden State, but that's not nothing. Later on, I get a phone call that night. We make a trade. I'm like, I'm about to go to the playoff. I'm going to Golden State.
Hey.
I'm like, I don't got no control over that.
Yeah.
I'm like, but you told me you're going to do this, but you sent me over here. When I'm a free agent, you say you want me to sign back. You tell me all this stuff. I let some other teams go. Then at the end of the day, you don't want to pay me. So I'm all for player control, and I do think you have to manage that, but what's the other option? What's the alternative? Because guys now know their worth, like you talked about, and know where they want to go. I don't think you should stop that part of it.
I think in all aspects of life, there are compromises that are made for ultimate happiness and peace and blah. You have no control over virtually anything. If you've been married, you can't control your wife. If you got kids, you can't really control your kids. You can hope. You can say a prayer.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
And so I think this whole deal of, hey, because I'm in the NBA and because I'm worth this much money, I should be able to control at where I live, where I play, all aspects and blah, who I play with. And blah. I think that's bogus. I think it's short-sighted. I think it's great to be, look, I used to be an athlete a long time ago. I get it. But my father was a businessman my whole life, small businessman. And again, if you're the owner, you want some control over your business. You earn that right. And I think we may be going a bit too far. The NBA, because again, there's the perception out there that they're competing with the NFL, but there's the reality that their ratings were in the toilet this year and the league is actually backing up. And you can only live a lie for so long.
Well, I think another problem with that is, and the way to fix that, is to stop giving big contracts to guys that haven't proved themselves. I think that's another problem because teams getting locked up with these big contracts with guys that haven't even proved themselves, that haven't done nothing in the league. And they're forced to give them these big contracts. So now you got guys that your scouts too. The scouts are a big problem too. The guys that are picking these players.
Steve, it's
that's
not
a big
the
problem.
guys that are underperforming that are forcing their way out. It's the guys that are performing And so, again, when
the
I
guys
start...
that's underperforming getting paid a lot of money not to perform.
There's a minimum salary cap, so let's just be real. They have to spend it up to 85%.
90%.
Right, but
you got to give it away.
But spend it wisely.
Well, then there's also a max. So the only certain players can get the max, and then after that, you just bring up the middle class, and that's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
You're starting to see players you deem overpaid and underperforming. It's just because it's a richer middle class.
You can't bring a player from a team that didn't play, that didn't do nothing, and bring him to your team and give him the mid-level exception just because you have to and expect something different.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.